So, hello everybody. I hope you are fine. You are away from Corona. Corona is away from you. We are continuing on epithelial tissue. On the last session, we talked about epithelium in general. We talked about the three types of simple epithelium: simple squamous, simple cuboidal, and simple columnar. In this session, we will continue and we will try to see the other types of epithelia, which are stratified. So what we are trying to do in this, we will try to see the different types of stratified epithelium, but more specifically we will concentrate on the stratified squamous epithelium, definitely because it is more important. Then we'll talk about two other types of epithelium, transitional and pseudostratified columnar, because they have specific features. Okay, so this is what we are trying to explain in this lecture. As we said last time, when we classified epithelium, when we say stratified, what comes to our mind is that it is formed of more than one layer, maybe two, maybe 50, 17, 100, and so on. Like the symbol, it has many types, namely three types: simple, stratified squamous, stratified cuboidal, and stratified columnar. These are three, but as I said, we will talk about two more types: the transitional and the pseudostratified columnar. So these are the simple types: simple squamous, flat cuboidal, simple cuboidal, and simple columnar. Look at the nuclei here, they are not so precise, they are not basal, they are supposed to be just near the base. What we are trying to do, we'll talk about the stratified squamous, stratified cuboidal, stratified columnar, not shown here, and then about these two interesting types, the transitional and the pseudostratified columnar. Okay, let us go into business, and we start with this, which is a very important type of epithelia, stratified squamous epithelia, definitely because it covers the surface of our body. The thickness of this epithelium will vary definitely depending on the number of layers. If you have 10, it's not like if you have 60. So if it is formed of layers, the layers which are deep, the layers which are so close to the basement membrane, they are usually not squamous. Okay, so I draw your attention to this point. The basal cells, we call them basal cells, those cells on the base, they are not squamous, they are columnar or sometimes cuboidal, and these cells, they are very important. These cells, they are very important. Why are they very important? Because they are the cells which are important in regeneration of the whole epithelium. Okay, so this stratified squamous, its survival will depend on these deep layers. Okay, the basal cells. Okay, so they are usually active. They have mitotic division going on all the time, and they are important in regeneration of the epithelium. Okay, so if you look at this basement membrane here, and you see these cells are called basal cells, and you can see that they are not squamous. The squamous cells are those on the surface. So the whole epithelium here is called stratified squamous, although the The squamous cells are the ones on the surface. So usually stratified epithelium is named according to surface cells. Again, stratified epithelium is named according to the shape of the surface cells, not the middle cells, not the basal cells, because these may have different shapes. So these are the basal cells. Usually see that their nuclei will be active. The cells which are next to them here, they are of different shapes, and usually we call them polyhedral cells. Polyhedral because of their different shapes, while whenever you go towards the surface, the cells get more flatter, okay, and until we reach the squamous cells on the surface. So the next layer is, the middle layer is a layer of polyhedral cells, while closer to the surface the cells will become flattened, and we name the stratified squamous epithelium according to the surface cells. Okay, what is the function of these surface cells? They will be the cells in contact with the outside, the atmospheric environment of the body, so they are protective cells. What is the function of the basal cells? They are regenerating cells. What about these polyhedral cells? They are transitional between, they are moving from the deep layer so as to reach the surface cells. If these surface cells are lost, they will be replaced by these polyhedral cells. So whenever go towards the surface, the cells will become more squamous. So the whole stratified squamous epithelium usually is important for protection of tissues. Usually we find stratified squamous epithelium whenever we need protection. For example, our skin. The mouse is used for speech. Now I'm talking for a long time. We use our mouth to eat. We can eat hot food, cold food, food of different shapes, and this need an epithelium which is strong. Which epithelium is strong and can withstand all these? It is the stratified squamous epithelium. Okay, so this is H&E staining of stratified squamous epithelium. You can see here the connective tissue, the basal layer, the basement membrane, the basal cells. Here you look at the nuclei, they are more darker, they are more active. And here we have polyhedral cells. Closer to the surface we get more squamous cells. I want you to look with me, all the layers of cells here, they contain nuclei. I will talk about this in a minute. But all the cells here, they contain nuclei, although they change in shape. Here they are squamous, different shapes, and here they are columnar cells. Okay, so this is stratified squamous epithelium. You can see that it is a thick epithelium. It is not the same like the simple squamous, which is for passage or making smoother surfaces, but here it is for protection. So let us go back to this epithelium. What if we want this epithelium to be more harder? This is protective epithelium. Typically this epithelium in front of you can be seen in the esophagus, where we swallow food which is not yet processed. It is just food in the mouth, passed to the esophagus. So it is still hard, still hot, and it needs this epithelium to protect other layers of the esophagus. But what if we want this epithelium to be more harder? For example, in our skin, what we can do? These cells here, they will produce a tough protein called keratin, and this keratin will deposit in these cells, namely the cells which are closer to the surface. Keratin will fill the cells, and what it will do, it will make the cells more protective, more harder. Okay, so according to this, if you have this type of epithelium without keratin, this is called non-keratinized. if you put keratin inside these cells, definitely you will call the cells keratinocytes, and the cells and the whole epithelium will be called keratinized epithelium, keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. Why we did this keratinization? To make the epithelium more protective, more harder, more tougher epithelium. And so according to this, we can divide epithelium into keratinized epithelium. Good example for this is the skin, or non-keratinized epithelium. A good example for this is the esophagus or the vagina. Okay, so I guess this is clear, because this is very important. Look at this diagrammatic picture. Maybe from the esophagus, look at the layers of the stratified squamous epithelium. Here we have the darker nuclei, dividing nuclei, basal cells, polyhedral cells, more squamous cells, flat cells, but we see the nuclei all over. So these cells, they are not keratinized, because if you have keratin will push the nuclei peripherally, they will compress the nuclei. Maybe in the more surface cells, the nuclei will be removed and it will be replaced all over by keratin. So this is not keratinized. Why? Because you can see the nuclei all over. But what about this one? Can you see the nuclei here? No. What we are seeing here, it is a layer of keratinized cells, many layers of keratinized cells. So this type of epithelium in front of you is stratified squamous keratinized epithelium. Definitely this is taken from the skin, and as we will see later, this is called thick skin. Maybe from the palm of the hand we see a lot of layers of keratin. Can you see the nuclei? No. All these cells here are keratinized. Definitely the basal cells, the dividing cells here, they will not be keratinized, because we need them to divide, so they will not be keratinized. And whenever you move towards the surface, you will start to produce keratin. Keratin will increase until you reach this layer. Sorry. So this is very important. Look at here, this is connective tissue, which will provide oxygen and nutrition for this tissue. Let me say again, we talked about the stratified squamous epithelium. We talked about the two types of stratified squamous epithelium, the keratinized and the non-keratinized, and we know why we may need keratin or not. Okay, so it is just a matter of making the epithelium more protective, more strong. Maybe some of you will ask about this here, more dark layer. This is a layer of deposited pigment in our skin. This is melanin. This is melanin, which is produced by cells near the basal cells here, called melanocytes. And this melanin deposited here will act as an umbrella, which is protecting these dividing cells. These dividing cells, if they get UV light, their DNA may be damaged and we may get cancer cells or abnormal cells. Okay, so we have a layer here of melanin deposited here, which is different from keratin. Keratin is to make these cells tough, mechanically more strong. Melanin is to absorb the UV light and to protect these dividing cells and other cells of our body. Okay, what are the other types of stratified epithelium? We have stratified cuboidal, stratified columnar. We'll just talk about them very quickly. They are not common in the body, so they are not so important like the stratified squamous. The surface cells are either columnar or cuboidal, and this will give them the name of either stratified cuboidal or columnar. And a good example where you can see these are the ducts of glands, big ducts, not small ducts. I will show you a couple of pictures. Look at these two ducts. You can see 2 rows of nuclei, like what is shown here in this diagram. So this is stratified cuboidal cells, 2 layers of cuboidal cells. The surface cells, usually look at the surface cells. Look at here, this is the big duct and it is lined by stratified columnar. Look at the nuclei at the same layer, they are away from the apex, so this is tall cells. So these are columnar cells. This is the duct. We have secretion here, maybe this is saliva or pancreatic secretion or so, because this is a big duct. So it is lined by this type of epithelium. Being here columnar or cuboidal, these ducts may modify the secretion here. So they may be active, they are not squamous, they can do something for the secretion. This is another picture for a duct, and we can see clearly here the lining epithelium, which is stratified columnar. This is glandular tissue, we'll talk about later. This will produce the secretion and this duct will take the secretion to the site of action. Okay, up to now we talked about 3 simple, 3 stratified. Now time to talk about transitional and pseudostratified columnar. Transitional epithelium, the key word here is transition. Transition means change. The key feature of this epithelium is change. How? This epithelium is called transitional, or it is a type of stratified squamous epithelium, but it is called transitional because it can change. This type of epithelium is found mainly and exclusively in the excretory passages of the urinary system, like the ureters, the urinary bladder, some of the part of the urethra. It is called transitional because it can change in the number of layers or the shape of the surface cells, depending on what? On the distinction of the organ. Okay, let us take one of these good example of this urinary excretory pathways. Let us take the urinary bladder. If we have a urinary bladder which is full of urine, distended with urine, what will happen to the number of layers? It will be reduced because the layers will be compressed by urine, and we will have less layers, and the surface cells will definitely not be cuboidal or clubbed. They will be flattened and they will be compressed. What happens if after that the person goes to bathroom and emptied his bladder? The distension will be over. What happens to the layers? They will increase. Okay, so usually if the urinary bladder is full, you will get less layers, 2 to 3, and you will get flat surface cells. If the bladder is empty, you will get more layers, which is the true number of layers, which is up to 7, and the surface cells will be club or cuboidal in shape. Okay, so the same layers, they will not be removed, they will be just compressed, and after removal of the tension, these layers will get back to their original shape and number of layers. Look at this diagrammatic picture of epithelium of the urinary bladder. Can you tell me about the distension of the organ? How many layers we can see? 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, this is an organ which is not in stress, it is not full, so the epithelium is relaxed, and you can see it is showing more layers and the surface cells are more clubbed. Okay, so look at these 2 states. What about this one? This is an epithelium which is relaxed, and this is the same epithelium when we get more urine and it is stretched and in tension, and we can see that, for example, the urinary bladder here is full, and you can see that it appears as if it is 2 to 3 layers and the cells are flat. Okay, so these are the situations which make us call this type of epithelium transitional. Transitional means can. Okay, these are the same different situations for the urinary bladder. Here it is distended, fewer number of layers. Here they are more layers, club shaped layers. This is an empty relaxed urinary bladder as shown here in this diagram below. Can you answer this question? This is an epithelium from the urinary bladder. Is it full or empty bladder? Look at it. Count the number. Usually any row of nuclei will be considered as one layer, like this ones, this ones, this ones, this ones. Okay, so there are 5 to 6 layers. Definitely this is a relaxed empty urinary bladder. The last type, the 8th type of epithelium we'll talk about is pseudostratified columnar epithelium. Earlier on, if you remember, we said that it is called pseudostratified because it looks like stratified, but actually it is simple columnar, but it is not the same like simple columnar. It has differences from simple columnar. So it looks like simple columnar, it looks like stratified, it is something in between. So it is called pseudostratified columnar epithelium. What happens in this epithelium? We have cells which all cells reaching the basement membrane. They are of different heights. Some of them they do not reach the surface. They are shorter or basal cells, and others are tall cells. The nuclei, because the cells are of different height, the nuclei are at different levels. A good example for this type of epithelium is the respiratory system. Sometimes we can see it in some texts, the same like stratified, cuboidal, or columnar. But always remember we can see it in the respiratory system, in the nose, the larynx, the trachea, bronchi, and so on. Okay, look at this. This is the basement membrane. Look at this short cell, short one, another one here. But in between we have tall cells. If you look at the nuclei, the row of nuclei, they may appear more than one layer. So this is what makes people at first think this is stratified. But actually there is just one layer of cells of different heights, nuclei at different levels as shown in front of you. Okay, this is the same epithelium on the left, represented here by this diagram. Definitely you are seeing these cells which are short, basal. What is the function of this basal cell? Do you think the function of these basal cells? Remember what is the function of basal cells in stratified squamous epithelium? Yes, it is regeneration. Okay, I guess some of you get this answer. These cells will be important in renewal of the whole epithelium, while the tall cells carrying the cilia, for example, in the respiratory system, will be lining the epithelium, protecting the larynx, trachea, and so on. Let us see this video. Okay, I think this is very clear. It made the difference between these two types of epithelium. Okay, again, if you have any question, please you can put it in the comments, because it will tell me about your understanding of the concepts in this session. So in a summary, we have 8 types of epithelia, 3 simple, 3 stratified, straightforward stratified, and 2 special types, pseudostratified columnar, and this transitional, which is a type of this stratified found in the urinary system, urinary bladder, ureters, calyces, pelvis, and so on. We talked about the functions, suitability of these types. This is stratified is for protection, hard, tough. It can be made more harder by addition of keratin, and it will be keratinized, stratified squamous. The basal cells are very important. They are important for regeneration of the whole epithelium. Okay, this is about epithelium. You can see in front of you 8 types of epithelium. Okay, let me draw your attention to a very important point. All these 8 types, they are called surface epithelium. They are either on the inner surface of a hollow organ or from outside, but they are on the surface. So they are called surface epithelium. We have another type of epithelium which is not on the surface, which is functioning only in secretion, but not on the surface, not necessarily on the surface, and this is called glandular epithelium, and this will be the topic of the next session. Okay, so in these 2 sessions, part 1, part 2, we talked about simple and stratified epithelium of the surface epithelium, and next we'll talk about glandular epithelium. Okay, I want you also to be able to use some of the resources I want you to use to strengthen your reading about histology. This is site is called Blue Histology. Simply you can go to Google and write Blue Histology, and you find it here, Blue Histology. You just go to this and you find this menu here: notes, messages, MCQ, quizzes. The first one here is very important, and these quizzes also, they are very important. I want you to click on notes, and when you go there, the first one here is epithelia and glands. Go there, you will find the talk about epithelia, stratified, and the glandular epithelium, which will be our next talk. So you will find the talk about epithelia here. It may help you. This site, Blue Histology, is a site of the School of Anatomy, Human Body, the University of Western Australia. It is open for you. You can use it. They are talking here about symbol. You can see some pictures here, and even there is an explanation of these pictures. The duodenum, simple columnar epithelium, stratified epithelium, what we have talked about. This is from the esophagus, and so on. Okay, so I need you to go there. There is a talk about pseudostratified and transitioning, sometimes with animations and so on. Okay, so this is one of the very important resources I want you to use. Another, if you come here and you write Michigan histology, also histology at the University of Michigan. This is very beneficial also resource for you. You can go to this. All histology topics, it contain an open window for you. Here you find a lot of tissues. You can find epithelial tissue. This site is different from Blue Histology because In the Michigan histology here, you can be as if you are doing a lab, a practical. This is virtual microscopy. So if you go here, this is simple columnar epithelium. If you go there, it needs to enable Adobe Flash Player. I will click it. I will click allow. See what happens next. It will open a slide. This is the slide. This is the an organ. This is the lumen of it. This is where you can see this tissue is the epithelium. So I will use this. I will scroll and change the magnification. You see now you are using your microscope. This will allow you to change. Okay, now we are concentrating on the epithelium. This is connective tissue. Let us increase the magnification. How it looks, what type of epithelium. We are clicking on symbol columnar. Let us make more magnification. Okay, this is columnar, symbol columnar epithelium. Okay, so this is a very beneficial site for you to navigate and to see your slides, your histology slides, and so on. Okay, you can use your laptop, your tab, and you can see this epithelium. This is connective tissue. This simple columnar epithelium. You can search different areas. Okay, this is very nice. You see a simple columnar epithelium. Sometimes you can see dividing cells. Here, this is simple columnar epithelium. Very nice. Okay, so these two I want you to use, the Michigan and the blue histology, definitely in addition to your Yanquera basic histology. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the session.